Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, this is Sam Dennehy, aka Halfass Customs, and this is Halfass Presents, the podcast. Today's special guest, we've got two in the house. Lou Wee, pretty well known for all his Jordan castings he does, which we completely appreciate. And Mark Kurasz, you've seen lately of his comeback to building, which is awesome. This special video is going to be a tribute to Russ Campbell. We talked about it in Mark's video, if you guys saw that at all. And so the main topic will be Russ Campbell and his castings and what we know of him and whatever. And then we're just going to talk about whatever else that deals with this hobby. So without further ado, why don't you guys say hello?
Hi, I'm Mark, and I guess you saw me most recently. I built a lot of Russ's castings, and they were all mainly solid resin, but fun to modify. And Lou and Russ knew each other as well. Russ passed away almost 2 years ago now.
I think so.
About 2 years ago. And wanted to do this tribute to him. And Russ and I had a page, Resin Cast Junkies, where he displayed all of the castings that he had. And since Russ passed away, I've added Lou to that page. So everybody on that page now knows Lou's castings as well. So I'll let Lou say hi now.
Hello, it's me, Lewis here. Unfortunately, I never really got to build any of Russ's castings or anything, but I spent countless hours going back and forth messaging and videos, helping him get into the molding side of it. So, I mean, I never got to paint any or build them, but spent some time with him.
That's the main thing with his solid castings is just like the 3D printed solid, hollow but solid casting that doesn't have interior. You get a lot of people that will look at a car like this and you go, wow, that is so neat. How'd you build that? Well, you didn't really build it. You just painted it and detailed it. And it's always funny to me to see people's comments on stuff that you didn't actually build. You may have added wheels and maybe bumpers that didn't come on the casting, but it's a solid casting. So all you did was detail it. I find that funny.
Well, everybody's got their definitions. You can take a block of rosin, and if you put different wheels on it and you go through the process of detailing it and adding to it, you technically are building it. So, I mean, it's potatoes. What's the difference?
Yes.
I mean, nitpickers are going to argue. To me, it's all the same.
Right.
I mean, I never built one. I never painted one. I mean, is what it is. But you guys have. You got lucky.
Well, see, what I did with a lot of them was actually building, because Russ would send me the ones that were flawed, and I would take them and cut them apart and use pieces of them and make different things, like my car haulers that I have. Take a truck that had a bad bed on it, cut that bed off, make a car hauler bed on the back of it. I made a lot of custom parts along with them and customized them and done a lot of different things, chopping the tops. I have fun with them.
All I did was literally detail them. That it's like this one. This is a stock body that he did, and all I did was add the bigger tires because he didn't send tires, and then added these double bumpers. So it's two bumpers sitting on top of each other for the front and back. I wanted to make it like a luxury style build. I don't know, but yeah, it's. I didn't do major modifications to his castings. I thought the cars were pretty cool and it just needed attitude. So like this one, oops, wheel fell off. This one I made into a lead sled. So all I did was basically put the wheel skirts on the back and then tuck the tires underneath it so it sat super low to the ground, and then gave it a candy paint job. But yeah, I thought the castings themselves were pretty decent, so I just said, I'll just give it attitude and make it look cool.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I got a lot of them though, like where I dropped it, like you said there. And if I hold this one up, you can see how the tires are inset. Now, I actually took an X-Acto knife and I sit there and I whittle at it and I made the wheel wells deeper inside of there than they were casted and then up inside the fender so that I could fit the wheels up inside of there. It's a
You,
lot of work, but I enjoy doing it.
you should get yourself a Dremel. Then you
I
can
think
just Dremel out the interior of the wheel well. It'll be a lot quicker.
I've tried that, but I'm actually much better with I have wood carving tools and I use
Oh,
those and I use
okay.
my X-Acto knife and different things, but I sit there and slowly whittle away at it. Once I get in deep enough, then that's when I grab a V-gouge wood chisel and start going in, and that it's about the perfect width for a tire, and then I start making it up inside the fender so that I
Wow,
can fit the tires up in there.
that's neat. So I guess I always wondered, 'cause I never really asked him where he got all these solid castings from. I know there was a company called Williams Brothers that did a solid casting, sort of resin, sort of, I don't even know what it was because they were clear. I don't know if clear resin was out back in the 80s or something. I have no idea how long clear resin's been around, but I always wonder where he got all these solid castings to make molds from.
A lot of them were Magnuson models and Stony Mountain models, which are both out of circulation now. So he was always looking on eBay for ones he didn't have. He was always trying to get more. I know I picked a few up from hobby shops and sent them to him so he could make molds. And I sent him a lot of different things to mold. He had fun with it.
You ever send him anything, Lou?
No, sure didn't.
I didn't either. I
I,
sent
I
him.
was in the Philippines when he was getting started.
Oh, yeah, it would have took forever to come here from the Philippines.
Yeah,
Just like the
yeah,
box I
and
sent you
anything
took
I sent to the
forever.
States from over there, yeah, and anything I sent to the U.S. from the Philippines went to Belgium or England first.
Jeez,
Because I
that's
had friends that would
crazy.
put them in their luggage, carry them back to Europe, and then ship them to America because it was
That probably
literally
makes
20
more
bucks to ship
sense.
from the Philippines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it probably would have got there quicker too, perhaps.
And then under the previous presidency in the Philippines, yeah, the mail was absolutely untrustworthy.
Wow. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, right.
I recently got.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I recently got some Back to the Future DeLoreans from Germany, and this is right when the pandemic started, and we shut down the shipping from Germany to here, and they allowed the shipping to the Netherlands, and then the Netherlands could ship to here, but Germany couldn't ship to here for some reason. So I had to go with that young guy, Severin, I think his name is, the one that does the 3D lowrider bikes. Um,
Yeah.
had him shipped to his house so he can then ship to me because Germany said they wouldn't be able to ship for who knows how long. So yeah, I kind of understand the shipping, how crazy it can be. I just don't understand why it is that way though. But that's cool.
I'll bite my tongue. I'm not even going into all that today.
Right. And that's why I don't know, because I never go into it either. I don't really care as much to find out, to do the research, but it's always weird. But
And it's
Now,
funny how
anybody friends with me knows how I feel about all that.
we can read it on your wall when you post. You share a lot of stuff.
If they're brave enough.
So that's interesting that you get that stuff from Stony Mountain and that other company. I've had probably 2 or 3 Stony Mountains, maybe, that I built, and I don't even know when I got them. But Russ never had, or if he did, I never got the ones that I have from Stony Mountain. I guess it would have been pretty cool to get more, but I don't know.
I'm pretty sure this old Buick Woody was a Stony Mountain one, the Buick Riviera wagon, Woody wagon. I'm pretty sure that one was Stony Mountain. I'm not sure which other ones were, but I know most of the bigger trucks that he had, like the Mack trucks and the International and the Ford, most of those were Magnuson. And Magnuson did have some cars too, but I think most of the cars he had were Stony Mountain models.
Oh, okay. I do have that Buick wagon. I forgot to bring that down. It's probably in a different display case, but yeah, I do have that Buick wagon, and I built him one, and then no, I didn't. I built two of them. One was for him, and then I didn't get it shipped out before he passed, so I just kept it. But one has his name written in marker underneath the car, so it'll always be his.
Someday you can build it as a tribute to him.
Well, I mean, essentially, it's still for him, so I don't know. I guess it is a tribute to him already.
Oh. Hold on a second. Let me shut that thing off. Sorry about that.
But yeah, I had this. It was so neat, the fact that he created those solid castings, and then we worked out the deal that he was okay with to build him one and I keep the other, because I have this this Woody truck wagon, sedan, not sedan wagon, but a Woody wagon.
48
And
Ford, that one was.
yeah, I've always liked it. I thought there was just enough detail on it for it to look good still, if done up the right way. I think his I painted. I think his was possibly blue, like a blue body with the wood grain. I'm not sure, but I always liked that.
I did a blue one with the wood grain that I sent him, and I know he ended up selling that one, but
Maybe mine wasn't blue then. I don't, maybe I'm thinking of yours is the one I did.
yeah, I know I still got pictures of it on my page from years ago, but yeah, he used to send me all them models to build, and I'd build them, and then I'd send them back to him, and then he'd sell them, and then he'd send me another batch of them to build, and I'd build them, and he'd sell those.
Well, Lou, if you didn't build them, you said, I think right before the recording, you talked to him a lot about maybe teaching him how to do the casting, or?
Yeah, I would give him a lot of tips of what I had learned over my experience.
That's cool, because I think right before he passed, he was starting to do that two-part. So you just had the body, and then you had the interior separate.
Yeah, he was starting to get into that. I don't know if he ever got any molds finished, but he definitely been talking to me about it.
I got some 55 wagons.
The Nomad right here.
Yeah, the Nomad.
This one, and Mike Buddy was helping him out with this.
Yeah. Yeah, I know he was talking to me and Mike both about it.
Yeah, I remember he would, post something and do the shout outs to who helped him in the descriptions of the photos. And I always thought that was so cool, because, in the 1/25th scale model world back in the 90s, secrets were trade secrets that people would hold to the death and not give them out, because they didn't want you to steal their ideas or steal their skills. And even in the Hot Wheels customization world, there's only a handful of people that are truly artists. The rest of them are just kind of hacks and build just crap. And those people, same thing, they kind of keep their secrets close to their heart. And when I joined this scale, everybody was just so willing to help everybody. And it was so 180 and so refreshing that Mike Budd would help, Lou would help, and like us, we would build them the cars, you would sell them or whatever. And we were just all so welcoming to help each other. I always thought that was so awesome.
Just the way Mama raised me, one hand washes the other.
Yeah, it's really cool.
I've run into a sour grape or two, even in HO scale, but I mean, they're everywhere. But It's just not the way Mama raised me. And you help me, I help you.
Right. Well, that was another reason I was doing the certain build offs that I did. Like all my build offs I did on the Rat Rod and movie car page is all stuff that we could get from you, Lou, purposely to help you, get a little bit of money out of the stuff you've possibly casted already and maybe sitting around or something. Because I
Oh, I
thought,
appreciate
how,
it.
yeah, how easy, if you have the stuff, how easy it is for them just to pay you real quick and then, you send it off. Even if it's not that much money in general, but still a little bit of
Yeah.
money is better than just sitting in a show for a box or something.
Yeah, any shot in the arm is better than none.
Right. And if Russ was still around, I would have probably come up with some kind of crazy idea just to say, hey, we're going to choose anything from Russ because it's super simple to like just paint in detail instead of have to actually build and, do a contest with that. But oh well.
Yeah, and then when we talk about loose molds, I don't know if you can see this, but I think this one was like an old Model T truck or something, but this is the difference with Lewis. It's all panels that you put together and build the vehicle. Very detailed, a lot of work to put it together, but a lot of fun to build.
Yeah, I've had a couple complaints about those. I'm thinking about building a couple bodies up and just molding the body so it's a complete body again. But me personally, since Jordans are getting so expensive, I just enjoy building them piece by piece. So I've tried my best to reproduce them as best I can.
It's not bad if you build it stock to do all those body panels, but if you're going to chop the top, it gets a little bit harder because it's all, individual panels. You got to like get the chop just right so they all line up together instead of a solid body where you can just chop the top and then it just sits right on top of itself like normal.
Well,
But like you said, it is fun to play with those panels and to get them all built right and to get it looking right. That's
well,
more of a modeler right there.
I agree with you for the most part, but even on the Model A's and T's, once you chop them so far, you get to the point that you got to lengthen the door jambs because
Right.
there's a little bit of tilt in the window fillers, and once you start making mail slot windows, it really gets hard to do it. And I'd rather do the left side than do the right side to match. And then when you assemble it, then you can make the roof end to fit. And it's depending how far you're chopping it, it can be easier to do it piece by piece.
Definitely
Especially when you
can.
start monkeying with that 40 model Ford.
Yeah, yeah, a 40 model Ford and you're doing a chop top.
Check out some of Tyler Kimmel's I've made for him.
Oh, I've seen a lot of his stuff. He's my biggest client, just probably as well as your biggest client, maybe. I don't know.
I wish. I ain't built hardly anything in the last year and a half.
So far, this is the only one of yours I've actually completed, Lou. And the cab was one piece, I believe, right?
Yeah. I was thinking that was a one-piece cab.
Yep. And
I'd already built it.
I did chop this one, but I've assumed that if I put one of the other ones together, I would put it together first, then chop it, because this one worked out pretty good for me by chopping it off the way it was and then just taking it to the sandpaper and sanding those posts down bit by bit until I had it exactly how I wanted it.
Yeah. The funny thing about the one you got in your hand is that began as a 1929 sedan.
Okay.
The 29A pickup had a flat top and square corners, where that one there's all rounded off. It looks more like a 32, 33 model cab.
Right. Yeah, because in the 20s they were square, and then in the 30s they started to round things off and give them more
29,
smoother.
it was all square like a box, and 30 or 31, Ford started going to the more rounded steel top corner with the rounded corners.
It's crazy. Like, I love hot rods from that era, and from 31 to 32, same body style, and 33 for the most part the same body style, but they started doing more streamlined swoops. And then by the end of the 30s, oh, it was all Art Deco. They were just
Absolutely.
waves and swoops, and oh, they're beautiful.
Yeah, 40s through the 50s, there was curves everywhere on the cars.
Yeah. Ah, if I always think I was born in the wrong decade, because I would have loved to have been a hot rodder from the 50s.
I know I was.
Yeah, exactly. That way we would have had all that stuff to play with, because they were just rusting and feet in people's yards, and they just give them away. Back in the good old days.
But would
Yeah.
we have thought to build them up like we do now, because people weren't doing that back then?
The handful of
Exactly.
people like Winfield, George Barris, they were doing it, and they were all on the West Coast. So you'd want to be a hot rodder on the West Coast so you could see that influence. Because if you were on the East Coast, I think they turned all the hot rods, which were moonshine runners, into NASCAR drivers. You know,
Yeah,
they
that's
they
where
didn't go with
NASCAR
the
got
hot rod.
started.
Yeah, they didn't go with the hot rod custom look. They went straight from having a hot rod and going straight into the racetrack with it, turning it into
Yeah.
a race car.
Yeah, they went from hauling heavy loads at high speed straight onto the track with rules.
Yeah. Unlike the West Coast, where they just said, we're going to chop the top now, and then we're going to lower it. And then we're going to take different pieces from different cars and make it streamlined and lead sled like. Ah, the good old days. But that's
Yep,
cool.
they sure like throwing Cadillac bumpers on all of them.
Yeah. They're cool if done right, but they can also be overdone a lot. But it just shows you the quality of cars and the desire to do a custom, because those Dagmars, they're the biggest things on a bumper from ever. You know, like the 59 Cadillac fins. Those are the biggest fins that any car company's ever made. And just like in the 50s, those are the biggest bumper bumps ever made in a car. So you see like custom crazy stuff, and you kind of want to emulate that, I guess, in your car. I did
I mean,
find a neat way to make Dagmars pretty inexpensively and easily. I found if you just use solder, like a certain gauge solder, then you can just grind down the edge with like a sandpaper. But it has to be a certain grade, a certain millimeter of solder,
Yeah,
because
right diameter.
it may be too soft, and you won't be able to do it because it'll just bend too much. So I think you kind of have to go oversized than a regular stock 187 Dagmar, just for the strength.
not sure if you can see the ones I put onto this. This was one of Russ's, there you can see them sticking out a bit. But this was one of Russ's 53 Chevys that had a bad grill on it. And I made the Dagmars, and I just used styrene rod, a little smaller than what you would get on like the sprue of a model car. Otherwise, sometimes I use sprues from model cars too if they're small enough, but it's got to be a small enough diameter, and then you can just sharpen it to a point like you said, and then snip it off at the length that you want.
That works too. That works great. I was thinking just so you didn't have to paint it, the solder would work good. Make it a little bit easier for you in your life.
That's actually a
Same
good
time,
idea.
solder is not as easy as styrene to cut. So, or not to cut, to like grind down into a nub, I guess.
Yeah,
I
shape.
don't know. Right. But
Yeah, and it's a bit more of a problem trying to get it to glue on to things too, because glue's hard to, it doesn't stick as well to metals. I know I use some super glue, some model glue. It depends on what I'm gluing together at the time.
yeah, I used to do a lot of model glue, and then it just takes forever to dry. So 95% of all my models is all done with super glue now. And then I just take like Easy Off or something to take off the frost when it starts to come on, because it will. and then car's done. It allows me to build so much faster than having to wait 15, 20, 30 minutes for model glue to dry. But
a lot of things that I build with model glue, I use masking tape and I tape them together and set it aside and then grab another model, start working on that, and just keep rotating things. I get multiple projects going and sometimes none of them ever get finished, but I work at it.
I think that's the same thing we were talking about, Lou, is how many projects that you started or whatever, like even like your molds, like you started a mold and never got to, I don't know, finish it. I think we talked about that on your interview. I don't know.
Yeah.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, I've got a lot of masters I started and just never got around to finishing.
I think that's most of us, though. If you're a true modeler, you have stuff that you started and you've run out of time on, or you've lost interest or whatever, and you went on to something else that catches your eye. It's like the regular 1/25th scale modeler. They have a closet or a side of their wall in their room or their garage that is just 100 model cars deep. And just like our little cars, it's so much easier to have 100 cars of those and not take up nearly as much room. You can put 100 cars on a little tiny table. And if you have the money or the time, it's so easy just to keep buying and buying and buying them, because you have the idea, you have a thought that you want to do with it, but not all the time, because you're building something else and then something else and something else. But yeah, I have hundreds of cars in my display cases that aren't built that I have ideas for. So I'm just waiting to, get to them eventually. So what about you, Lou? You going to start building anytime soon? I know you're super busy.
If it ever warms up, I'm still stuck in a living room.
You don't need to have it warm to build. I build at 0-degree weather. I just don't build outside in 0-degree weather.
Yeah, but in the garage where I'm working, where I'm sitting right now, it's literally 55 degrees.
Do it in your kitchen, in your dining room.
Yeah, right.
That little tiny 187 scale car can't take up too much room.
This whole distance learning stuff here in Washington, everybody's got one room or another busy with their school stuff. So my choice is to sit out in the garage. Well, I'm busy doing kindergarten with my son. So yeah, my oldest daughter's doing the last course for the day with him while I'm out here with y'all.
Oh, we could have did this later.
Nah, it's okay. It's just reviewing everything he's done. It's simple. She can take care of it.
Well,
but yeah, this whole virus thing it's turned my life upside down.
Oh, everybody's life. I mean, it's just a good thing that we can kind of survive. Like some of us can work, some of us may not be working, but have the money to kind of, relatively stay afloat for a while. It's just good that we're in a position to be able to stay afloat, because there's a lot of people that can't.
Amen.
Yeah, I know my daughter's out of school this week because they had quite a few cases of the virus in school last week, so they shut school down this week. They might be going back next week, don't really know, but it's virtual learning this week.
So your kids have that choice of being able to go in or stay home for school? Like I know here in North Carolina, they pretty much shut it down unless you couldn't stay home, which is maybe 5% of the whole entire school. You were allowed to stay home and just do it on the computer. Like it wasn't even a question.
Here, most people have been sending their kids to school. I live in a very small town, less than 2,500 people in town here. So it's a pretty small town. They have, I think, only 10 students per classroom.
Oh my gosh.
They're quite a ways apart. I remember having 30 to 40 kids in the classroom when I was a kid. So it's totally different.
Yeah, but, I think most of us did. Like 30 to 40 kids.
I miss your classrooms, Mark. I had that when I was in grade school in Tennessee. My elementary school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in Mulberry Gap Elementary, all 3 grades were in the same room, taught by the same teacher, who is also the principal.
Wow. Oh, geez.
Yeah, I miss the small schools. You actually got real attention paid to the students.
I never even, the smallest town I lived in still had probably, I don't know, 50,000 people in it. I never been to lived in a small town where there's only a couple thousand. And every school I've ever been to had like 30 to 40 kids. I don't know what small town living is.
When I was going to grade school in Illinois, it was 20, 30 kids in a class. And I moved to Tennessee, and it was literally 10 to 15 in a class.
Wow. Yeah, I know I got away with a lot of stuff in school because of that. Stuff I shouldn't have got away with. And I don't even mean bad stuff, like just being overlooked and not making sure that I knew the subject and knew what they were talking about, because there's just too many kids to care about. I don't know, or to deal with.
Yep.
That's cool though. I mean, at least you live in a small town, Mark, that possibly you don't have nearly as high threat for COVID up there than you do in a big city where there's just too many people all around.
Well, and it hasn't been bad where I live, but there's a lot of even smaller towns just south of where I live that they're out in the middle of nowhere, and it's ATV trails, and people from Chicago come up all the time to ride their ATVs and stuff. And there's bars in all these little towns. So all these little towns, all the bars keep getting shut down because people are getting COVID, because it's all the people from the cities coming up and riding around, and then they're spreading the virus to the people out in the country.
You should shut your city down. Tell them no more foreigners. We're not trying to catch this.
We had a similar situation with trails like that in Tennessee, and you start running the foreigners out and you lose a lot of income for your community.
Well, true, because think about all the people that live in his town. If they weren't wanting to go out that week and they just stayed home and cooked dinner, then their bars would be empty. So it makes sense. I get the tourist part of it, but in this pandemic time, just keep them all out.
We did for a few months.
Yeah, right. I think the whole country did, and it was hurting a lot of people, but what can you do? I don't know.
Well, and it wasn't too bad in the summertime, but it seems like now, like today's the warmest day we had in the last 2 weeks. It actually reached 40 degrees here today. So we've had snow on the ground for the last couple of weeks. So now everybody's indoors, heaters are running, and I think the virus is just carrying through the ventilation systems and buildings, and more people are getting sick from it.
Well, whether it's true or not, they did say that it is now airborne. So even if you have a mask, it may not help you. But, that's if it's true. I don't know. I don't pay attention to a lot of politics or a lot of news because it's so, you don't know what's real and you don't know what's fake. Even the people that say, oh, no, this is a fact checker, a news website. It's all, you don't know. You just don't know. It could be real, it could be fake. I don't know.
Yep, I know exactly what you mean.
There's a lot of information out there on the government websites if you just dig for it.
Yeah, but I wonder if they're governed to only put out what they're allowed to put out, because somebody's running them, and somebody's telling them what's allowed to be put out, just like the news.
In private message, I'll send you a screenshot of a news article I saw, and then I'll show you the screenshots I took from the paperwork or the article I got from the CDC's own website and the search results. I'll send it to you later.
Cool. But back to models. So Mark, all these models you're building, that's all in your stash from Russ?
Yes, yep, it's still the old ones that I had left over that I hadn't built yet, and Well, some that I got from Lou last winter when you did the rat rod build off. I still got 3 of them left to build yet from Lou.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Hey man, I still have, I think, a quarter of a box that you last sent me, Lou, that isn't built yet. Even the one like you labeled this one's for your daughter because she was starting to
Yeah.
get into the small stuff. She still hasn't built it. So I still have
Oh,
that too. But yeah, I still have a quarter of that box left.
oh
So
man.
the good thing though is we have it. So when we get to the point of needing to build it or wanting to build it, we have it instead of, if you haven't done nothing in the last year or whatever, say you don't have any stockpile up of leftover stuff. If we wanted something, we would have to wait. But now we just have it in a box or somewhere, so we don't have to wait, which is
Yeah, but
good.
luckily enough, I mean, I don't keep stuff casted up in advance, but I've got 2 gallons of rosin here, and it's literally 10 minutes to pour a car and have it done.
Oh wow, that's all it
So
takes.
yeah, once the mold is done, it's literally 3 minutes, 4 minutes to mix a batch of rosin and fill your mold. And
Wow.
some cars I got 5 molds, 6, 7 molds for one car, and other molds it's just other cars it's just 2 molds.
Well, that's good. I'm gonna put a link up for anybody listening that wants to see Russ Campbell's cars that he molded or created or whatever in the description below. So I'll have a link to that Facebook page that Mark was talking about, because without my editing skills being anywhere good at all, I don't have a way to just post these pictures up over our faces and while we're talking to show you guys. So that's the best I can do for now, is to at least put the link in the description so you can look at it yourselves and see it. And I also put a link of um, your Facebook page, Lou. So if anybody wants any future projects, they can hit you up as well. I mean, I'll put a link to yours up too, Mark, just so you feel happy. A special part of the group. Maybe if somebody wants something painted or something or whatever, if they can't paint it themselves, they can
Well,
hit you up.
actually, if you don't care, Sam, it'd be better to put a link up to the Rosin Cast Junkies page.
No, that's what I was gonna do. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the
not
link. I
not my
wasn't gonna put it
profile.
to.
I don't have any pictures of my stuff on yet.
Oh, well, to IM you,
Not much.
No, to
Yeah, we
IM you.
both
That's how they would IM you, is to go to your
Yeah,
page to get your IM. That's what I was
yeah.
more going for.
Okay.
Yeah,
we
and I
both
wasn't
have a
gonna.
lot on the Junkies page. The Resincast Junkies page
Yeah,
has a lot of my stuff, Lou's stuff, Russ's stuff. So I mean that page really would show everybody what we
I
got.
think I'm on that page too. I think a lot of my stuff's on
I
there,
think
but
so.
I don't
There's a
know.
page and a group.
Oh, I don't post to the page.
Right. Yeah, the page was one that I had created for Russ to help him sell his castings, and that,
That makes
you
sense.
know, it's been there for years. And I actually just recently found out who has Russ's molds now, and I added him to the page too because he has a lot of castings made. And I thought if anybody wanted to get a hold of the things Russ had, they can get them. It's Norman Mitchell. He's on the page now too.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'll put a link to that group or and that page on the link below so everybody can see it. Because even though he's not around, doesn't mean his stuff that he created or took over has to be not around too. So if his little venture in this hobby can live on, why not? More the merrier. Just like Chester's builds. Anytime you see a build that Chester did, and he's passed on, you think, God, how awesome are those builds? How neat are those models that he created and detailed? It's amazing, and you kind of wish he was still here. So if we can still see his stuff, it'll be like he's here in spirit.
There's another guy I used to talk to. His name was Stephen Krajik. He passed away 4 or 5 years ago, I think. But he had a group called 187th Scale Big Rigs. He did a lot of semi trucks, and he did a lot of neat builds, and he had a lot of nice scenery to take pictures of his vehicles in. And I always loved looking at the pictures of his trucks that he built. And I really miss that guy too. And every now and then that group is still there. I go back and look at it and, remember the pictures that he put up. And I enjoy looking at those.
Is it the Australian guy?
Yes, he was
The Australian
Australian.
group? Okay,
Yep.
yeah. Yeah, he did die. He wanted me to build him some custom car, and he was so psyched about me doing it, and he said he wanted to get the car himself and then send it over to me. And I was like, cool, take your time. And I think he just took too long because I never did get to build him something, but he loved my stuff, and I like this group. And every once in a while, people do post on his group. It's not nearly as much as when he was around. I think he was helping it continue like every other day or every day or something. And now it just kind of doesn't get that many people posting on it or nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when
he was a nice guy.
alive, even if he wasn't building something new every day, he was putting one of his models out there and some of his scenery, taking new pictures of it in different angles and always making new scenes and posting pictures. And that's what always drew me to his group, because he had such realistic pictures. And I
Right.
always enjoyed looking at that.
There's it's selling miniatures on Instagram. These people built, or not built, but I don't even know if they cast. I don't know how they get them. Maybe they 3D printed. I don't know. They came out with all the famous TV movie characters in 187 scale. So like the latest group of characters I got, the Ghostbusters guys, came from them, and they're in Indonesia. But the neat thing with them is same thing with their background shots to advertise their little figurines that they've just painted and created. They got some of the neatest backgrounds imaginable. I mean, it's more like today's scale stuff, but then they put the little figures inside of that, like just for instance, they put a girl sitting down, maybe with her legs crossed, sitting on the edge of a flower, like inside the middle of the flower, and then they take a photo of it. And the thing about, like what you were saying with his group, how he takes the most incredible background photos, these people are doing the same thing, just with taking miniatures with large scale stuff and tying it together. I'd like to figure out how to do that, like intermix the two so they combine into just a perfect picture.
I'm sure you remember a guy, German guy. His name is Joachim Gundelach. I don't know if I don't know if you remember him for sure or not, but he had a 187th scale MOW and logging group, and he does a lot of little dioramas where it's like only a foot by 2 foot, and just a little scene with a railroad on it and a train and then woods, and then he lives in the woods, so he'll take it outside and you see the forest in the background, and it just looks like the whole scene came to life by seeing the real trees in the background of it too.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I don't know if I remember that guy, but I probably do.
He's one that was in Ryan Kelly's Magic of Custom Scale Models group.
Oh, okay. I want to do a tribute to him too, but I want to do it to where I can overlay some pictures over me talking about him and stuff, and kind of, because I think the video, like if I do a tribute to him, you'd really need to see his work. I couldn't just talk to you about it. It wouldn't do very much if I just told you, oh, he built a NASCAR track that's maybe this big with all the NASCARs on it. That doesn't really do much. But if you see his work, instead of me just talking about it, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I'm actually still an admin in Ryan's group. I don't know, I may be the only one, or
Probably.
Dakota Black Wolf may still be on there too, but I know nobody's posted anything in that group in a long time, but all the photos of Ryan's work are still on that group.
And that's why I want to do it. I want to take those photos, put it like in my photo gallery. That way I can overlay them on top of this video. But that's maybe for a second season. Because these podcasts are going to be like, I'm going to end it probably closer to Christmas and then maybe jump back on it around maybe the same time I started this, I think, which was in March or something. I don't know. That way it gives me a break, and then I can actually have seasons. But I know in the both of our videos, Lou's and yours, I said, you know, when second season comes around and I run through the list of people I've talked to, I'll come back to you and ask if you want to do it again. I don't think we need to do a second tribute.
No, it'd be neat if you could get some of the other people that were in Ryan's group. I'm not sure who else would be in there.
Shoot, yeah, I don't even know. I mean, I've reached out, and this is the biggest problem with this podcast. I've reached out to so many people. There's like 3/4 of the people that I've reached out to, I don't have videos with, because they either don't want to do it, or not yet. They have too many things going on and whatever. So I think I just posted one Monday, and I forgot who it was already. Shows you how good my memory is. A new podcast Monday, and that was the 22nd interview I've done.
Joseph,
So
right? Joseph Blevins.
he was the 21st, and he actually should have been like number 15. I lost his interview in my memory storage of all the interviews I did, and I had to like tell him how sorry I was, because he should have been up a long time ago. But yeah, he was 21 and then 22, and yeah, so I don't have that many videos, to be honest with you. I have this video, and I think I have 3 others before this goes up, and then I'm completely out of videos. So I got to get more people to be interviewed and wanting to be interviewed, and so many people don't want to be interviewed. And all our overseas guys, they all think their English isn't good enough to do it, so they don't want to do it at all.
Man, a lot of those overseas folks speak better English than the majority of Americans.
Right. I mean, even the guys in like,
come on.
in the United Kingdom, they've got the perfect, proper accent. You can't tell me it doesn't sound better than our accent. I mean, it may not sound better, but it's proper, the proper English. So, but yeah, they're all kind of just, I don't know. I really wish half of them would turn around and say, you know what, I've watched your videos, we can try it. But it just hasn't happened yet. But I don't know. Hopefully. I'm glad you guys did it, and then you came back for a second round. That's cool.
You're just brave.
Well, I mean, I look at the subscribers I have, and I don't even have 100 subscribers on this channel, which I don't care about. But it just, and then the groups I've reached out to that I've asked if I'm allowed to, you know, post these podcasts on, a lot of the train groups, in fact, all the train groups but one, said no podcast videos if it isn't train directly related. And I said, well, I mean, it's not, but it is, but it's not. They're like, no. So I can't really advertise this that well to get the masses out. I don't know.
I know what you mean. Like, I don't even post the pictures of the cars much in the train groups, you know, mainly just in the vehicle groups, because the train guys tend to ignore it or get mad about it.
Right. What were you going to say, Luke?
Go to that Rosin Cast Junkies group and make your posts in there. And we've got several foreign guys in there. A couple of them I've actually shipped to and ordered from me. Just invite foreigners to be on a podcast too.
Well, I've reached out to most of the people that are in the main groups, like the 187 vehicles group, because that's the biggest American 187 group there is. And then on the Rat Rod group, there's people in the Rat Rod group that aren't in the movie car group. And then I've just kind of reached out to the foreigners that post the most, not that post maybe once a month or once every few months, because they don't post enough for me to know them all that well. So I've reached out to most of them that post, you know, at least once a week to more than that. And they're kind of not really with it. So
Well,
I don't
if you
know.
want, I'll reach out to a couple that have bought from me and see if they'd like to do a little interview skit. And I'll tell them straight up, don't worry about the speaking English part because
Right,
theirs is
right.
better than a lot of Americans.
Yeah, I reached out to Sam Friedenlin or
Yeah,
something.
Friedland up in Canada.
Yeah, and he's in the French part of Canada where they speak French. He says, my accent's all French. And I said, when we were up at
So what?
Springfield, I understood you and you understood me. And I said, I'll even talk super slow so I can make sure you understand me. I said, it's not going
Yeah.
to take nothing away from the interview. We may not get to as many topics, but I mean, it's all free for all anyways in all these interviews. I don't have nothing scheduled to get done by.
What? Why couldn't you get to the topics? If it's 3 hours long instead of 2, I don't care.
I think I've only had one that was like 2 minutes shy of 3 hours so far. And I
Ain't
think
nothing wrong with that.
I think Mark, you were just under 2 hours or 3 hours.
Just, yeah,
maybe.
2 hours, 55 minutes, I think it
Yeah.
was.
And Johnny McIntosh, I think, did the 3 hour one. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he didn't. Maybe it was you that did it.
I
I
was
don't know.
somewhere around a 2 mark, but my battery was down to 2%.
That's actually why Mark's video ended, because I think his was down like super low too. And that's what I usually say before we start recording. I'm like, I can go as long as you guys can go. So if you guys want to keep talking about the hobby, we'll go as long as you want to. Because I do a setup to where I got my phone charged while this is being recorded, so it's never going to run out of battery unless my power goes out. But
mine is actually charging now, so it should be okay.
Good. We can do another 10 hours of this then.
I'm at 70%, so I'm good for 2 to 4 hours.
Nice. Well, that's cool, man. I really wish that you would have more time, Lou, because I've always enjoyed your stuff. Like, since the minute I saw you post your first post, I enjoyed it. And, I've been a fan of yours. And now that you cast these Jordan kids, that makes life even easier. Because if you didn't, and we had to only get actual Jordan kits from the internet and pay skyrocket prices for them, life would suck a lot more. Yeah, life would suck so much more than not knowing you and not having you in this hobby. So it's always a joy to see your models when you did post them.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
And I like seeing yours too, Mark, because we said it in the interview with you. You have a mind like I do of wanting to customize stuff. You like the lead sleds and the custom cars, and that's right up my alley. So I 100% appreciate your style of modeling as well. So it's cool that both of us, all three of us, have similar hot rod and custom, thoughts in our head to want to build in that style.
I just wish I could learn to do the rust and the weathering like Lou does. That looks so neat on those models he builds, and I have no idea how to do it.
Man, it is simple. My God, I was so intimidated for over 30 years. And I finally just tried it, and it is so simple. It is beyond nuts. It truly is.
You guys need to talk to each other. And so since you showed Russ how to do the casting, you can show Mark how to do the rusting.
Well, I'll give you a real quickie. Hold on here. Let me find my paintbrush. This is just a cheap $4 for a pack of 5 paintbrushes from Walmart. This is a little too much of a tip for me personally. I would use a little bit more of a blunt tip, but I would cut it off. I'd cut most of that tip off. Come on, there we go. I'd cut most of that off and leave basically a 1/16 of an inch or a little more of the brush itself. I'd cut the rest off and throw it away. And then the way I began dry brushing, just a quick dry brush technique. What I started with was the Tester square bottle enamel. I got the rust brown a light brown, and a dark brown. Light brown, dark brown, medium brown, and rust. And those were the 3 colors I started with for dry brushing. And you shake your bottle up, get a little bit of just the paint that's in the lid. Dip your brush in and just rub it up and down your britches leg until it's almost dry. And then you just take it and just start stabbing it into your model very gently, and go gently and lightly. And the drier the brush is, the better, because you can always add more.
I
And
really would love.
honest to God, that's the easiest way to get started.
I'd love to do a patina rat rod or lead sled, but I haven't learned how to do it yet. And somebody was going to teach me how to do it years ago. This guy had given me some dry ones that you're supposed to. I never learned how to use them. He never showed me how to use them, and they dried up on me or whatever. They're no good anymore. They're hard.
Yeah, well, I've tried the watercolor, Apple brand watercolor from Walmart. I've tried watercolors from good name brand from Hobby Lobby and stuff. And I found for dry brushing, I prefer enamel. For me, it's just a lot easier.
That's what I do.
I'll paint my cars with acrylic. Come back over and just dry brush a little bit with enamel, the tester's enamel, and it's done. If I really want it old and used, I'll get some weather and powder out and give it a dust of powder, and it's done.
I use I just use regular brown, like a gloss brown, and then I just spray flat clear over the whole car once everything's painted ready to go, so the brown isn't so shiny like it was out of the bottle, because it'll flatten that brown right up.
Well, the reason I use dull and not gloss is because to get a dull texture or a dull paint finish, it's got to be a coarse. Gloss is just a finer pigment which lays down smoother.
I dab the crap out of it.
From my research. Yeah, but see, the thing is if you use a dull instead of a gloss, the dull is rougher and will accept more paint easier if you want to add 4 different colors of rust and dirt and grime and garbage, and it just lets the paint stick easier. Additional coats.
That makes sense. I like the look.
That's my understanding. I don't know.
Yeah. I like the look of it. I don't care for the detail of it. I just want it to look like there's rust on it and then done. I don't even have the little tiny drills to drill out actual cancer in your like fender wells or nothing. I'll just put the dabs of rust there, and then you can imagine there's cancer in that fender well. I don't care. But I
need to experiment with it. I need to take an old junker and try making some rust one of these days.
Well, what I also do though, to do a lot of faded paint, so you can see like the primer underneath the paint of a car, obviously you primer the car first like they do in a real car, and then you spray your gloss color or whatever color over it, and then you sand lightly over it. So now you got faded paint all over the car in the high spots or whatever where it would fade normally. And even if the resin or the metal part of the car shows through, like you sanded too far down, it still adds to the effect to me. Even it may not be real because it's a resin, tan mold that you used or resin that you used, it still adds, because they don't know that, maybe the car was tan and then somebody else painted it in the 80s, and then the sun beat it up in the 90s and 2000s, and now you got three colors.
I know what you're saying there with this one. I don't know how well you can see it, but there's a lot of, I painted 1 coat of white on it. I know you can see on top of that fender there's a dark spot, but I painted 1 coat of white over top of the resin, and you could see a lot of the resin showing through yet. And I really liked the way it looked, so I just left it that way and painted all the details.
Yeah, that's cool. I'll do that too. I had a real bad accident with with a Selvin kit. So I had the Nash, the 49 Nash fastback, like the station wagon Nash that he made, and I painted it a metal flake blue, and then I took the top, the roof, and I took that Mottola chrome pen. I painted the whole roof chrome, and the chrome didn't like the resin, so it started to oxidize bubbles in it. And I said, that looks cool. And then I sprayed a candy blue over that, and I said, done. That's now oxidizing circles on the roof because all the resin and that chrome pin and then the candy blue didn't like the mix that they were sitting on, and it went and did like this custom crazy planned mistake. So sometimes just like you did with that truck, the imperfections can still come out like you purposely did it.
Yep, that's kind of interesting. I know somewhere I'm not sure where I got them here, but one time years ago, I took some clay and I took some of the solid resin molds from Russ and I just pressed them into the clay and I didn't care how well I did it or anything. And then I had some epoxy that I had used at work and I just sprayed a little bit of cooking oil inside of there and then mixed up some epoxy and dumped it in and then pulled them out. And I got a couple of cars that I did that way and they look like old junkers and I like to have them like sitting out in the yard behind a fence, where it looks like an old junker collecting rust.
That's exactly what I was telling Lou in his interview. I said, your first castings, they were rough, but they were perfect for that very reason. You could make rat rods out of those castings. You could make a junkyard scene, and none of the stuff he did was like a bad casting, in my opinion. They were perfect for certain situations, and even if he didn't like them, because they weren't a perfect castings, they were still very good castings for certain situations. And rat rods, hot rods, junkyards, they could be great for that if you didn't want to try to fix them. Like if you just took all that leftover mold that might have been on it or whatever, or broken body panels or whatever, they're perfect just like that. You don't have to do anything with it. Just keep it that way and paint over it and make it look still cool. That was my opinion. I liked all his stuff, all your first stuff and all your last stuff. I like it all. Didn't matter how it looked to me. I made it work.
Yeah, and sometimes the flawed castings can be really fun to play with because, you're going to make something different out of it, whether you're trying to make something that looks really cool or make a junker or whatever you're going to do. If it's flawed, you're going to have to do some heavy customizations to make it into something.
That's like a lot of those first version 3D cars. Like the 3D print capability was so horrible. The only thing those things were good for were junkyard cars, in my opinion, because it just took so much work. Like I saw Mike Buddy's versions of the first castings of 3D printing. He did so much work to those. It just didn't seem worth putting the effort into them because they still weren't nearly as good as today's versions of the 3D printing is. So
But at that time, it all there was for all those models, and my God, Mike turned them into masterpieces.
No, he definitely did, and you can definitely appreciate everything he went through to do it. I just don't want to do any of the work he did to it. It seems like it's so much more work than it's worth, in my opinion. But I mean, what we're doing today in the next 10 years is going to completely surpass it, and everything's going to be so much easier in the next 10 years for model cars. So what we're doing today is going to be the same story they did 6 years ago. but
Yep.
I don't know.
But he had it 6 years ago instead of having to wait till now.
Right, Mr. Smarty Pants. I'll wait. How long did I wait for that Ghostbusters car? At least 4 years, because I wanted it then, but I wasn't willing to build it myself then.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
waited.
I'm forced to wait because I can't do the magic that Mike and John do on those.
Oh, me
So,
neither. I can't build, like, no lie. I can take their casting and build it better. I can't take their casting and build it factory stock. I
no,
can't.
I'm talking about the 3D prints.
Oh,
I can't work a 3D print like they can, so I'm forced to wait that 6 years.
yeah.
Now,
Well,
as
I can't
far as
3D print
building and
nothing
painting
either.
and detailing like they do, forget it. I won't be that good when I'm 98 years old.
Well, if I'm allowed to put a candy paint job and lower it and different rims, I can do that all day, every day. But you asked me to build a period correct 1970 whatever. Nah, I don't want to do it. Just let somebody else do it.
I was doing it for Russ, but it did kind of bore me doing those. But there were nights I'd do 10, 20 cars in a night. It was just like an assembly line as I'm painting. Those solid resin cars, I put a screw in the bottom of them, take a drywall screw, a 2-inch drywall screw, and put it in the bottom of them. And then I hold on to that while I paint them, and I put one coat of paint on, set that one down to the side, grab another one, put a coat of paint on that, set that one down to the side, and I just keep going on. And then when I'm out of cars to paint, then I grab the dry one and start painting details on it and just keep doing that. And I could mass produce them. And, they're all stock builds, so they're a little boring, but it was kind of fun building a whole bunch of cars in a night too.
Yeah, I didn't do it. I didn't build mine that way. In fact, I built his one by one, and then I waited and built mine later because of whatever reason. Maybe I didn't actually have a idea how I wanted to build it in my head or not. But that's like this bluish green car. Like, I couldn't see in my head any way to make this a custom cool looking car. I could have filled in the rear skirt or filled in the rear wheel wells and put skirts on there and lowered it, but it seemed like the car itself was just more classier than custom. So I said, I'll just put this metal flake paint on it and then just keep the rest of it as stock as possible. But yeah, I mean, in my head, all I see is customs. Like, I never want to leave anything stock, but there's those one-off cars that just stop you from being so creative, and you're like, I guess I'll leave it stock.
Yeah, sometimes it's better just to build them stock, but it's fun to build them both ways. It's just when you customize them, like us anyways, we like the hot rods, so when we customize them, we have more fun building it. But I still appreciate the way they look stock too. It
Oh
does
no,
look
because I
good.
see a start. Yeah, I see that. Oh, you built it stock? Now give it to me so I can make it look different. I mean, that's how all cars are anyways. You get it stock from the factory and then somebody goes and customizes it. So they went and built it stock. Now send it to me so I could ruin it. That's all I see. Like John Tyson's stock cars, I see all those things and I'm like, God, I just want to put some like maybe 20-inch wheels underneath it and lower it, give it an attitude, instead of just leaving it grandma's looking car.
Yeah,
'Cause
I'm not sure what brand it is, but I've been looking online and there's this 53 Cadillac convertible. I'm not sure what company makes it, but it's a really nice model and I really want to get one of them. And I want to say they're like $6 or $7 a piece right now. They're on sale through
I think
model train stuff.
I think Malibu makes some Malibu something maybe.
It
I don't
could
know.
be. I know they have the Cadillac and they have some Buicks
Yeah.
and I think some old Fords too, but they're all like $6 to $10 right now through model train stuff. And I keep thinking, I really should order some of them, but then I look at how nice they look and I think they come built. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, it looks so nice. I'd almost not want to cut them up, but yet I'd have to.
Look, I
At,
got
at $6 to $10, that's cheap enough to cut them all up.
right. Shoot, don't even talk about money. I took a Neo. I took a Neo 47 Cadillac, which if you know anything about Neo models, they actually have photo etched stainless steel window trim and side
Mhm.
markers and all kinds of stainless steel stuff. I took that model, I took it apart. That model's like, I think $20 online, or it could be well more than that for a secondhand person, selling it or whatever. It's actually probably like 30 some dollars for that model, I think, if you go from a train website or something. I took that and then I took it completely apart and I took my Dremel and started shaving down the interior wheel welds so I can slam that thing. And I thought, well, I don't want to take the car, like the windows out and the stainless steel off, because if I lose these small little door handles, I'm never going to find them. So I said, I'll leave the body alone paint wise, and I'll just slam it. So I took that $30 kit and just took it right apart and said, screw it. But then, I mean, if you look at the 3D printed cars too, you get a 3D printed car like the Ghostbusters car, you get that in the finest print possible. It's $37 for the finest print, and then another $10, flat out $10 to ship. No matter where you are in the country, it's $10 to ship. So you're talking $47, and then you got to do the rest of the crap to that car. You got to like ruin it by putting LED lights all over it and turning it into a Ghostbusters car. So you can look at like the rarity and the how much it costs for a model and go, I don't even know if I really want to touch that thing because it costs so much. But if you know what you're doing, you have the potential to make that thing look great. You just got to know what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm just thinking these ones are cheap ones. I'm just thinking they look so nice stock, it's almost a shame to cut them up. I
They
might
look
have to
stock.
order two of
So
each one, order one to keep stock and then one to build up.
that's all they look is stock. Cut them up. Just do it. Stock is nice. Custom is way better.
I do love the original look of cars though too. When I go to car shows, I like to look at them in all ways, and I love seeing the way they looked original too.
Oh no, they look great. I mean, I'm a car show addict. I love classic car shows. I like new car shows. I like stock cars to have, but if I had my choice as a model, oh, I'm going to customize it. I'm not going to leave it stock. I would want the 1-1 to be stock if I couldn't have the money to customize it myself. But a model car that I can cut up and do whatever I want with, oh, it's getting cut up. It's not staying stock. In my opinion, for me.
Yeah, I know at the car show they do in the town I live in here every summer when they do the car show, they block off downtown area and it just goes on right downtown and there's a one parking lot there. And that's where all the classic ones go, where everything that looks stock goes in that parking lot. And then the different streets around downtown are different types of cars. Like there's a whole street of just rat rods. There'll be another
Really?
street. Yep. And then another street of muscle cars and then another street of 50s. Each street they do the different styles of cars on it when they line them up.
That's a neat idea. I
Oh,
know, Lou, you're in Oregon or Washington?
Washington.
Washington. We were going to move to a little town before we moved to North Carolina and Oregon. It's on the, I guess, more southern, but not really southern western part of Oregon called Coos Bay. It's an
I've
old
heard of it.
logging town. Yeah, it's an old logging town that is no longer a logging town. It's just a dried up old town. And the biggest company in that town was Walmart. So you figured you're probably going to get a job at Walmart. And it's 2 hours to some city in the south of Oregon, like the main city. I already forgot what it was. But either way, 2 hours to get to that town or that city. And I thought, if you were going to have any kind of life out here in this little tiny town, you'd have to work 2 hours away to be able to afford it. I said, there's nothing out here. We would like just be bored. There wasn't even a movie theater. There was nothing. There was no mall. There was no jobs. I don't know how anybody lived there. I think the people that were there were like born there and trapped there. You know?
I actually know somebody that lives in Coos Bay, that's originally from the town I live, and she lives there now. I don't know what she does for a living, but I know her brother used to live there too, and he ran a hotel when he lived there. There was a motel or something, but he was the manager of the motel out there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful little town. It's literally right on the coast. So, you know, a little 5-minute drive, you could be at the beach. And it's very beautiful and has that total small town America vibe, you know, where everybody knows everybody because it's so small. And I love that aspect of it. I just thought you'd have to be retired. You couldn't afford to live out here. There's nothing out here to, how do you get a job? Like everything's already taken. Everybody that lives here and works here, if they don't work 2 hours away in the big city, I don't know. It was a nice looking place, but not a practical place. And being a car show guy, there's no car shows out there. So I'd just be bored out of my mind. There's no car culture life out there because it's just too small. But it was a nice little town to visit to look at ideas of future places to live. So Lou, you're in Washington. I remember we were talking about this last time. I couldn't remember what you said. That's why I'm asking again. How far are you away from like the major city, or are you in the major city where you live?
I'm in a little Navy town up here on Whidbey Island. Seattle is about 90 miles away to UW Hospital for my transplant doctor. With traffic on a regular Monday morning, it's a 2.5 hour drive with traffic. Seattle is, my God, Seattle's worse than Washington, D.C. as far as rush hour traffic. And
Really?
I'd take Chicago 10-1 over Seattle as far as rush hour. The closest decent city to me is Mount Vernon, Bellingham. It's one city for the most part. It's the zip codes are divided by a river, so Mount Vernon, Burlington is the closest city for me.
Let me pause this for 1 second. I've got to turn the light on in this garage. I see my video's getting a little dark. You guys can keep talking, but I'm just going to turn the light on. I'll be right back.
Well, it's good to finally meet you anyway, face to face.
Yeah. I enjoyed watching the video of you with Sam. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to see the one with me yet or not.
I started to one morning when I was on a treadmill and dropped the dadgum phone, and everything went south after that week.
Yeah, I know it's a pretty long video, so it'll take a while to watch. I know what I do is I turn the videos on while I'm building my stuff lately, and I don't watch half of it, but if I hear people saying they're showing something, you know, I quickly look over like, oh, what's that, you know?
Yeah, I wish I could. I get
That's-
up in the morning, make breakfast, clean the kitchen, and then start teaching. So,
damn, Lou. Well, that sucks for you because these podcasts are just the best thing ever.
tell me about it. You already
That's what
did
I
one on
figured, though.
cooking. I got real biscuits and gravy recipe.
That's what I figured with the podcast. Exactly how you, Mark, are watching it or listening to it. I figured it was more of a listening podcast than it would be a video. But in case people wanted to like watch it, you know, the point of it was to see the modeler, you guys, and to hear your voices and to hear you talk about why you like the modeling world and what is it that we love. So people got to see you and got to know you, you know. So you didn't have to necessarily watch the whole thing, which I believe most people aren't. And it was more so they could just listen to it in the background while they're building a car, while they're cleaning the house or whatever. Like most podcasts, I think, are just verbal podcasts. They just listen to them. It's only come to like very recent within maybe the last 2 years where video podcast has blown up. So I figured, being that our small little world of 187 scale builders is majority 50 years and up, I think if they were going to listen to a podcast, they'd literally just do that, is listen, if they listened at all.
Yep, they turned on like a radio for noise.
Right. So, yeah, that never bothered me, but I did want to give the viewers the option, to say, oh, that's what Mark looks like. Oh, that's what Lou looks like. Because unless you saw me on the video or you met me at a show, I mean, you're not seeing me. I don't use my profile as my
No,
picture,
no.
So most people don't know what I look like purposely. I want to be a mystery.
Now you see
I,
how much personal stuff I put out there, so yeah, I understand completely.
yeah. Well, and then that's the thing. I don't even use my own page, like my own timeline, for much of anything. Uh,
Hmm.
I don't post my personal family life on here hardly ever. Every post I
No
do is
way.
within a group. I hardly ever even
Exactly.
share stuff, because I only got a Facebook because of all the websites that I was part of was slowly dying out. And all the websites were modeling websites, model car websites, Hot Wheel websites. They were dying out and
Yeah,
everything was going to Facebook. So I was like,
yeah,
all right,
because
well, let me get a
Facebook's
Facebook.
instant.
Yeah. And that's the only reason why I have a Facebook. It's not actually for my own timeline to post what I'm eating and to post what my family's doing the next day. It's just for the hobby. So, yeah.
I try to post pictures with my family and stuff on there because a lot of the family lives further away and doesn't get to see us that often. So,
That's
I
their
try to
fault.
have some things on there.
My grandma said the same thing. We went to a family reunion 3 years ago. She goes, "I'm so glad that you posted pictures in your photo album of your kids." I said, "We hadn't seen them in 12 years." And I said, "That's because you live too far away." They said, "You're the one who moved away." And I said, "Well, you should have followed." I mean, if my parents can follow, why can't you follow?
Nothing else, take a vacation.
Right. Yeah. I mean, my grandma's never been to North Carolina, and neither has the rest of my family that's still out there. So why not? Whatever. But yeah, that's why I got Facebook, was just for the hobby. And that's still what it's for. Because I get, the more groups you're in, the more pages you've liked, the more feed you get coming down the funnel. And it's all hobby related stuff. It's never personal stuff. I see what my other family are doing. Like, they live on Facebook, like everything they do. And I'm like, I don't think most people care about what your kids, if your kids learn how to ride a bike. I don't think none of your friends care about that. Why post that? But, whatever. I don't know.
I know I
No,
see a lot of cars on my feed, tons of that, and I have a lot of friends from the different, well, like from our 187 scale groups, but I'm also in a lot of the 124th scale groups, and got a
Me
lot
too.
of friends from those groups too, and everybody's in all these different groups or all these different pages we got, with all the real cars, that you see pictures of coming through the news feed all the time, and we're always sharing them back and forth. And I know you're always liking all those pictures. So I see a lot of that in my news feed.
Yeah, it's I tell you what, I don't do Instagram that much. I am in a 125th scale model car club that's around the world. Like, it's a social model car club, social media club. And they stopped posting anything on their group on Facebook, and they're doing all Instagram. So they're the only reason I'm on Instagram, is that's how they talk to each other, or we talk to each other. Or else I wouldn't be on it at all. I don't really care for it. I figure, what's the point of having two sources, Instagram for photos and Twitter for talking, if Facebook is the same thing in one thing? You can post photos and literature or whatever, or post whatever you want to post, and it's all on one instead of having to switch back and forth. It seems stupid to me. But all these young kids younger than us are all on both of them. They prefer that over Facebook because Facebook's for old people.
Facebook's the only social media I've ever used. I've tried some of the other ones, but didn't know how to use them. And somebody talked me into getting on Facebook like 10 years ago, and that's the only one I've ever used.
Yeah, well, there is only one Facebook, so you're good.
Yeah. But I tried Twitter, couldn't figure out how that worked, didn't really like it. And I've tried a few other little social media pages, and just, Facebook seems so much more simple and easier to use. I think that's probably why so many people use it.
Yeah. I just heard on, I think, Joe Rogan's podcast, he had some guest on saying that there is 1 billion people registered to use Facebook, and there's like 7 billion people in the world. So he said that's a ton of people, but you'd think there would be more, but I guess 1 billion people is still a shit ton of people. I don't know. But yeah, it is interesting. I kind of like Facebook though. It is simple to use, and I don't have to go and jump through a bunch of different social media platforms to see what I want to see. Like if 187 scale group was in all these other things, and certain people only posted on this one platform other than this platform, you wouldn't see half the stuff because you may not be using it. But everybody's using Facebook that is in the group that posts, so we can constantly see the stuff we're, for the most part, trying to see or that we like.
Yeah,
I think that's cool.
Yeah, and you get to see a lot of different variety of stuff too, through your friends and on Facebook and stuff. You can read the news, you can see the models, all different things.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's cool about, having that many people in a certain group too, is definitely not everybody has the same exact building style and love for the hobby. And you see in their posts exactly what they love. Like there's another, I think there's another Mark that has a whole entire big rig fleet line of orange big rigs. Like his whole 100 big rig fleet is all orange trucks. He's got an infinity love for orange.
Yeah, definitely. I believe that's Mark Kulak, it sounds like, up in Canada.
Yeah.
That's what I
asked him to be on here too.
Yeah.
He's not too sure about being on here, but I'm trying to poke little dabs in them to get him to do it.
God, keep encouraging. That's a wealth of knowledge between him and Sam Fairland up there.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure Mark Kulak, I think he was building some of Russ's molds as well. I know Russ talked to him quite a bit too.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to get him on, and that's what's neat about the hobby though is, I mean, you knew from the first, few posts I post what I like. And I know, if you're a big rig guy or a construction commercial vehicle guy, if you post, 4 posts of like the same genre, okay, well, we know what you like. So it's neat to be able to see and understand what other people like, and not everybody's building the same thing. Because that's why I build like the rat rod diesel trucks. Just say, hey, I can build a diesel truck. I'm just going to build it my way. I'm not going to build it your way.
When I was building all that stuff for Russ, you could see I actually enjoy building a lot of different things. I like building the big rigs and stuff too. I guess I have a passion for a lot of different things. It doesn't just have to be a hot rod. I like building all of them. And you got to have something to haul your hot rods on. All my dragsters.
True.
You can just drive them on the road.
Yeah, you could if you wanted major back problems and stuff to fall off your car on the way to the show. But it does help to trailer it too. So Lou, you got any plans? I guess maybe in winter vacation you got plans, or it's going to get too cold up there for you to still not do anything?
There's not a lot going on around here in the garage. It's just too cold. I've got a little cubby made out in the foot area under my molding desk. I got it lined with 2-inch insulation, so I can stick my pressure pot in there and stick my electric heater in there and leave electric heater on for 24 hours. And I can actually cure a mold. So I've
cool.
got a little bit of the stuff I hope to get done. I got Tom Hart picked me up a Jordan kit back at one of the shows back east there a couple months ago. Got me one of the Jordan 29 AA. I think it's the tank truck with the fuel tank, water tank on the back. And I'm really wanting to get that chassis done and get that cab done on that. So I got it. But that's the next one I really want to get on to.
Nice. That'll be cool. Yeah, I'll definitely want
And
to have
then
one of those.
I need to redo several molds. The 29A pickup I got, I just want to redo the mold so it's done better. The one I've got, it's a pain to cast. So I'll probably cut the existing mold up, use it for filler, and just remold the whole thing.
That's cool. And I would ask the same to you, Mark, but I think we kind of already know what you're up to in the future because you're already showing us what you're doing now.
You know, I'm actually kind of on this kick with what you've been talking about, building a big parking lot too. And I've been looking, I don't know where, I got so many boxes of stuff in my basement, and I'm trying to find boxes of all my downtown buildings.
Mhm.
And I want to set up a little diorama, and I was thinking, you know, I could put all the, you know, Victorian 1800s downtown buildings along the wall,
Yeah.
and, you know, do it in a corner. So I got two walls of it, and then make like a 2 foot by 4 foot diorama where the rest of it is like a parking lot or kind of a park or whatever, you know, something in the middle of the town where a car show could be going on. I was, you know, you
I have,
mentioned it, and I just think it's a good idea.
yeah, I have an idea. This is what I want to do with mine. So, and I mean, if you wanted to do a module to where you're going to go to, you know, the Amherst show and set up with all the other modules, you'd have to do it differently than this idea. But if you wanted to do this idea, it's basically turning the module instructions to put the street up front in the back. So you flip it. You have the parking lot up here, you have the street in the back of the module, and then you put just the building fronts on the other side of the street with the sidewalk, and the whole building fronts are just flat. So you can push that straight up against the wall, and you have a huge parking lot right up front where you need it, but you still have a street with the entrance to the parking lot with the buildings in the background. And that way
That's
you don't have to worry about a full building. You can just do building fronts and have the whole look ready to go and set and done and still pull off the look. That's what I'm going to try to figure out how to do, because I want to be able to attach it to the other modules at a show, but at the same time have the whole module flipped. So I got to figure that out.
That's exactly what I want to do too. And I know the one I've been working on right now, I did put the street in the back, like you said, and I got the parking lot for the shop up front, you know, so the street's kind of in the background. But I did that because I wanted a hill in the background. I wanted trees, so there was more of a backdrop to the pictures. And
Yeah.
it's working out nice with that one, but I know I want to do a couple more dioramas.
Cool.
Well, if you want to set it up to go to the Amherst show, you'd need at least 3 modules. One set up the way you want with the road in the back, but you'd need one module on either end with the module to curve the road to the back.
Well, so this is what I was thinking is pretty much what you're saying, or cut the module, like if you did a 2 foot by 4 foot module, and then at the very edges of the module, you have the street curved down to do like a U shape thing. So the street's in the back, and then they curve downwards to meet up with the other roads.
Yeah, like a city block.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't know that I want to. Yeah, I don't know that I want to. It's so weird. I don't know. I want to make it attached, but then at the same time, I just say, let's just do like a diorama of just the parking lot and build it as cool as you can, and not worry about the way the module setup should be, because you'd be cutting off at least 4 inches of parking lot space, which could literally be the car, and it could be a whole bunch. You're just wasting space, I think. I don't know.
So you do a double module, so you got plenty of parking lot space.
Yeah, do that too. Probably will do that.
Or
Dude,
see
I
what
want
the
to do like,
Amherst rules are if you could build a double size module as one module. So
you
you
know
don't
what?
have the
You
gap
can
in the
do
middle.
that. There's no rules against the way the module has to be. They give you and it's not Amherst that does it. It's the Route 187 scale
Okay.
group
I just
that
said Amherst
allow
because
the
that's what
rules.
you referenced.
Oh yeah, no. Well, that's our major place to set up all the
Okay,
modules
okay.
at. But so basically, the major rules are it has to be a certain height, so they're all the same level, and the road has to be a certain depth inside of that module, so they all meet up. Everything else is up to you.
Yeah,
So
it's real similar to T-track modules they use in
right,
N scale and T. Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
yeah, same thing. So it's super simple. And I think I probably just have to use two modules. I was thinking of like two by four modules. So like 2 foot deep and 4 foot wide. And that way you can put the parking lot like right in the middle, pretty decent size, and then have the road kind of curve outwards to the front of the module on each side. That'd be cool. And then you have it separate in two by fours, but in the center you have like that bridging gap that you have like an extra piece that you just set on there so it ties both modules together. That might be a good idea. Because I was thinking of just doing one, but I don't want to lose space by putting roads on each side to match them up. But yeah, it's a good idea, Lou. Good job.
Yeah, but whatever size the module size is for the 87, the whole display. I mean, if you simulated a city street on each side, I mean, how many? I don't know how big are their module size.
Well, the modules don't have to be a certain guideline width. It just has to be a certain height, and the road has to be a certain depth inside of that module. Because there's one guy that you've probably seen on one of the groups that has a whole entire Coast Guard module that's probably like 16 feet long. And he's got the boat in the back. He's got the Coast Guard building headquarters, the ocean in the back. It's like huge, and it's like
Yeah.
16 feet long or something. I don't know. So
Well,
it's broke up
I
in
thought
certain pieces, obviously, but
yeah,
so it can
I
be as
thought they
long or as
had a
short as you want.
standard width on it to make modules compatible between everybody.
Basically, so when I went this year in January to the Amherst show, when you sign up to go to that show, they ask if you're bringing one, and then you got to give them the dimensions of what your modules are. So I was bringing two, and one was a
Okay.
2x4, and one was the standard guideline one as they use as the example. I didn't know that was an example one, so I thought that was the standard guideline you're supposed to go for, and I think that's like 2 foot by maybe 1.5 foot or something like that.
Okay.
So
So the 2 feet is the overall width. So if you stacked four of them together as one module, you'd still
yeah,
need 8 feet overall.
right,
Yeah.
right. But
As
I
long
mean,
as their basics are met, it can be 1 or 10 modules.
it can, yeah, it literally can. There's no as long as they allow you to bring all that. Because if what's his name? God, I'm so horrible with names. There's two guys that go to the Amherst show every year. They have a construction scene where it's all commercial vehicles, and they have part of their module have a train track in the back for a construction train road or a track repair crew back there, and all this commercial vehicles all over their module, and they dominate the whole module game. They have probably 2x4s, and they probably have 8 or 10 of them when they bring to this show. So it just depends on, if they fit you in or not, and they'll tell you, okay, well, we have this much room, or we only have this much room, so whatever. So it can be as long as short as you want it, but it's got to be able to fit on a table, so it can't be like 5 feet deep and 2 foot wide, because then it just topple over the table.
Yeah, 4 max deep so it don't overhang the 4x8 tables.
Yeah, right. So yeah, that's a future plan. I want to build that parking lot like he's already starting to. You're gonna get your parking lot done before me.
That's just my little hot rod shop though, and I'm just kind of experimenting because I never really used the foam before. I learned to do this stuff when I was a kid with plaster, and my daughter and I built a scene years ago. You've probably seen some of the pictures of it. We're at a bridge with a river and stuff going through there,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
like a little
Yep.
bait shop by the bridge. And that was all built with plaster and grout and stuff like that. And even though it was 18 inches by 24 inches, it weighed almost 100 pounds.
Oh,
It,
geez.
Oh, wow.
it was ridiculous how much the thing weighed. So,
That's solid plaster, huh?
yeah, and that ended up getting ruined in multiple moves. So me and my daughter destroyed it finally, and we salvaged the bridge and the building from it and some of the trees, and we're reusing them in the one we're making now.
Cool.
That's good, man. Yeah, you should do styrofoam and lot lighter stuff for the future, okay? Super light.
Yeah, what I'm using now is some 3/4 inch styrofoam board that I did some siding on a friend's house and garage, and there was some foam left over, basically all the scrap chunks. So I brought them all home and got one full sheet too. So I got a full 4x8 sheet that could make 4 dioramas and use all the scraps to do the layers for
Here's here's a
hills and
funny
stuff.
thing. We had bought a desk for my father-in-law. This really nice, big, heavy desk came on a pallet, so it had a whole bunch of boxes. All this foam separating all the different wood panels. I had a foam pile from the floor, probably, I don't know, 3 feet, 4 foot high, full of foam. I'm like, I've got all the stuff I need to build all these dioramas. I don't need to go buy nothing. Well, my wife does, one day she decided to clean the garage. I'm at work, and this was before COVID, so I was literally at work. Um, she throws it all away in the trash. Now she broke it up in pieces where the trash can just stayed flat and I couldn't see them sticking out. Threw it all away, and now I have no foam to do nothing with. Now I got to go buy actual foam when I had a whole bunch of foam. It's all good though. It's not that expensive.
It isn't cheap though either. If you go with the 2-inch foam, that stuff's about $30-$40 a sheet.
Don't go that thick then.
That's why the friend that I did the siding job for, he went with the 3/4 inch stuff because it was $11 a sheet.
Yeah. Well, hey, if you got even that, you can double them up or whatever if you need thickness. And they're still pretty light overall. So that's good. Well, I'll tell you what, guys. I don't even know what time it is. What time is it? Um, it's about that time.
Mm,
It's almost 7 o'clock here.
10 to 4 Pacific time.
Yeah. How long was this? 2 hours? That's pretty good.
Yep,
So,
almost.
yeah. What do you guys think? You guys have anything else to say? Anything else you want to talk about?
Nothing too much. Just hoping to see more people watch these and get into it and get inspired by it like I have.
More
And you really
participants.
did.
I needed the inspiration since Russ passed away. I just hadn't done anything, and the only thing that sparked my interest was that rat rod build off you did last winter, and that kind of got me going again. And it prompted my family to buy me more stuff for doing models for my birthday. And then I just left all that stuff sitting there and hadn't used it until you started putting out these podcasts. And I watched the podcasts and got inspired and started doing it.
Well, hey, that's like the best news ever because I know you said that the first time on your interview, but just it is really that's I didn't expect it to be influenced or influential. I can't even talk. Can't even say words. I didn't expect it to have people be inspired to listen to it and want to build. I just figured it was literally just what it is, just to get to know you, and then they'd listen to it and then go on with their day. But to hear that this inspired you to build again, that's great. I didn't even plan it to do that, and it seems to be doing that, at least for you. I don't know about anybody else. So that's cool. I appreciate you doing that, because
It's even got me
building and
bugging Lou in the middle of the night with questions like I used to do with Russ, where I'd be building something. I was bugging Lou the other night, building the ramp on the back of a truck, and said, "How does that look?" He says, "Now that angle's too high." So I said, "Oh, I'll rip it
right,
apart and start over." He says, "Don't rip it apart.
Well,
Save that for your
it,
junkyard."
right.
either that or for the backyard racer that could only afford the short wheelbase truck to them or sold. I mean, there's no shortage of trucks been built that steep. So I mean,
Hot Wheels keeps doing it.
you can write the story to fit the truck.
Yeah, and I
By
built
all
that
means,
bed.
don't tear it apart.
I built it 3 different times that night and finally got it how I wanted it. And then I thought, well, it still looks too short. So then I took some parts of an old train cab that were in one of my boxes, a cab that I had cut apart years ago. And I took those, they had some windows on them, and I took those and built like a little sleeper on the back of the cab for it. And now I got to get that one all put together, but you'll be seeing that one soon.
I've actually got one of your ramp trucks, Lou. It was a blue one that you sent in a big old box that had a ramp, drive up ramp on the back. And
Yeah, that's that
I
one
don't
I painted. Just crap, I needed to get out of here.
right. And I don't really care for the cab, but I thought the ramp was cool, and I thought if I get a Co body, whatever Ford, Chevy, or Dodge Co, and slap that on the front of that ramp, I think that might be pretty cool.
Absolutely. There's a
But
hammer and a screwdriver. Break it cab off. It don't matter.
yeah, well, I mean, future project, future ideas. Got a whole ton of them. There's no shortage. They just keep flooding in. So, it'll happen one day. As soon as
Oh
I
yeah.
get off this 1/25th scale kick that I can't seem to kick, I need to kick it. I need to get back to these small cars. But I talked to Joseph Bolivins about making some car lifts, some 2-post jacks, and a
Yeah.
4-post car lifts. I said, dude, if you make me some of those with your resin printer, I'll get back into it. But until then, I'm having fun with this bigger scale.
Now, see, I've actually been trying to think in my head about how to build that, or even the 4-post lifts, because I want to do the interior of my shop. I want to have the shop with the back of it open so you can see that, and then everything will be finished inside, because I got some toolboxes, I got mechanics and stuff. I got one of those little sets of the people with the toolboxes. So
What there's
I think it'd be fun to do the interior.
there is a
I
company.
haven't studied on them much, but they should be simple enough to do with styrene rod. I mean, I
There
did
is a
tire racks out around rod. I mean,
there is a is it pressure, one of the European companies that does a lot of figurines, whatever
yeah,
that.
freezer.
Pressure, yeah, they make
Yeah,
an interior for an
yeah,
auto
in a
shop.
garage detail set.
Yeah, I did buy it, but they're like $30, and it comes with 2 posts and a couple of tool carts and stuff, and it's not worth the money that you could probably spend on a 3D printed, or even if you just make one yourself. It'd be a lot
Yeah,
cheaper if you made one yourself. But yeah, I bought it because I didn't want to make it, and I just wanted to, glue the parts together real quick and set it down in my garage, and it worked for that decent and just fine. But yeah, I need a whole bunch of them. Like in my
I I know their stuff's awful detailed. How was that car rack? Was it good, well detailed, or a
pretty
blob?
detailed, yeah, and it holds up the cars as long as you glue this the car scissors or whatever you call them
Yeah,
to
lift
the
arms.
posts. Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll hold the cars no problem. They'll hold heavy cars too. I put some Allied form cars on there that are really heavy, and they hold.
Okay.
What is that, Mark?
Yeah, this is the I guess it's Bachman set that's got the toolbox here in the corner, and then mechanics doing different things. So I got that to put inside my shop. And I know, like Lou said, the styrene rod, or the square chunks of styrene, I could use those to make the posts and the smaller ones for the arms. I'm pretty sure I could scratch build a lift. So that's, I don't think that'd be very tough for me to do something like that.
I
Yeah,
don't think
I
any
haven't
of it's
studied
tough,
one up close
but
in years to see how detailed they are.
so in my world headquarters of Halfass Customs, I got this 3-story walled building that's kind of shaped in a T. That is the world headquarters, and I need like 5 2-post lifts, and I think 5 or 7 4-post lifts, and I need a dyno too. And I know Joseph, when he watches this, he can do all that for me. It's just getting him to do it. Although I will say he's a hell of a cool guy, and I don't want to force him to do anything or make him feel guilty at all, Joseph. But he did literally, I think 2 days ago, just print me a Doc and a Marty 187 scale figurines that we got off of a 3D print site. So I have to paint them, but he printed them for me. So they're resin printed and they look super cool. And Doc and Marty from Back to the Future, if anybody's wondering.
Sweet.
So yeah, I don't have to buy them from that selling miniatures people in the Philippines no more. I can just get Joseph to print them for me and I paint them. It's pretty cool. But I guess with that, it's been over 2 hours now, right? 2 hours? Nope, just about 2 hours.
Give or take.
If we're good to go, I think we're good to go. You
All
guys
right, well,
good?
it's been good talking to both of you.
Yeah.
Same
And
here. Been a pleasure.
if you just stay on until I end this, we'll say goodbyes then. But everybody, this was pretty much the tribute video to Russ Campbell, and a little bit about Ryan Kelly too. But that standalone video will be coming up as soon as I figure out how to overlay pictures. But this has been the podcast tribute Russ Campbell. I hope you guys like it. If you do, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Shout out to Joseph for being the #1 comment contributor. He seems to be the only one posting on every single video I do. So thank you very much for that. And this has been Lou and Mark. I'll have their links to their Facebook pages below and the link to that group that we were talking about. So you can see all of Russ's stuff and Lou's and Mark's stuff as well. You guys have a good night. See ya.